What better way than to end this horror season than by ranking the entire Halloween franchise? A lot of the horror movies you get today would not even exist without this franchise. So, what better way to celebrate than to actually rank it? And then one thing I learned from binging this entire franchise is that a lot of the movies suck. It's iconic, very iconic, but a lot of the movies are garbage. But the worst one to me is Halloween 6. It is just so unwatchable. Everything that happens in this movie, you just don't care about. The story, the characters, all of it is just incredibly weak that by the time the movie ends, you have no idea what you just watched. Now, I do think Michael Myers does save the movie a bit. Every time he is on screen, my interest kind of peaks a bit. There's like this switch that goes off in my mind that, oh, Michael Myers is on screen. Play a scene I like. And for the most part, yeah, but even some of those scenes are really dumbed down a lot. But this movie is just so incredibly slow and so incredibly just nothing. So bland and feels like absolutely no heart was put into it at all. Probably because they just wanted money out of it, which a common theme for all these slasher films with a lot of these sequels is that exact idea. And let's not forget about how poorly this film was put together. The editing is completely all over the place. Now, some of the kills are cool, but the first half of this film is absolutely no plot. It's seriously just Michael Myers going around killing people. Now, like I said, kills are cool. Rob Zombie has a certain style to his movies that make it stand out a bit more. And I do appreciate them not actually doing a reboot of the second film, kind of like what the first film did. I appreciate them going in a new direction, but the story they decided to do for that new direction, well, for starters, there is no story in the first half of this film, and then when we do get to the second half, it's really just nothing new. There's really just no story in there. Yet again, it's just boring. By the time we actually do get to the story, you're already done with the film because you wasted my time in the first half. Why should I care about the second half of this film? It's just really trying to capture what Rob Zombie did in the first film, but a lot worse, and since they're not actually remaking a classic, they don't know what to do with the story. That's why the story comes off incredibly weak, because what made the first movie stand out a bit was that it added its own story to Michael Myers while remaking the first film. So automatically, the story you liked about the first film is still being told. But this time around, whole new story, not good at all. That's why it comes off so sloppy, especially since there's no story in the first hour of the film. And to put it straightforward, just forgettable. The start of the movie completely retcons what happened in the previous movie. Kind of disappointing, but I guess they need a sequel somehow. And then just becomes a generic fest with no good elements to it whatsoever. Besides a few kills in here, and Michael Myers does really save these movies that were even bad. He always somehow finds a way. Every time he's on screen, says he's such an icon. Every time he's on screen, this witch is in my mind, and I'm like, oh, Michael Myers is on screen. But the entire film just feels like a complete drag and pain to get through. Not as bad as some of the previous films I mentioned, but it's still in that ballpark of they have absolutely no clue what to do with a sequel, so they're just doing what worked, but making everything 10 times worse. By this point in this franchise, completely everything was going downhill. It did pick up a bit with 7, but a lot of these movies are complete garbage. This one is definitely one of the stars. Now I can admit, the actual finale of this movie with defeating Michael Myers is the best part of it because it's satisfying. It kind of pays that tribute to what you kind of want from this franchise. But everything else in this movie is some romance story. I don't even know what's happening with that. For some reason, they decided to put a lot of filler in this movie and make a huge chunk of this movie not even about Michael Myers, not even about anything the rest of the trilogy set up, and make it about this teen romance story. But once we do actually get to the end of the movie, it's satisfying. It pays off that Michael Myers thing. But the rest of the movie, I don't hate it. I want to say that a lot of people absolutely hate the first half of this movie. I don't. I do find enjoyable elements out of it, just because movies like that I can enjoy here and there. But as a Halloween movie, even though that stuff isn't even written well, as a Halloween movie, it's not what you want from this franchise, especially for the final installment in that trilogy. It just completely fumbled the bag. Fan service wise, everything you want is in this movie. You just have to sit through an hour and 15 minutes worth of stuff that you just don't care about whatsoever.
Halloween 2.
I think this is a hot take, I'm not sure, but in my opinion, this is a huge drop off from the first movie, where the first movie was just about a slasher going after babysitters. It's simple, but it worked. It's safe, and that's what makes that movie so iconic. Talk about that later. But when it comes to Halloween 2, it very much is like, oh, Michael Myers, people love him. Let's just do one more movie about him. And the movie just tries to be what the first movie did, but never able to capture the same magic that was able to bring. Like always, Michael Myers, the kills, best part of this movie. And everything else, I'm not a huge fan of. I do like it, but I'm not a huge fan of it. More specifically, the twist on Michael Myers. I'm one of those people that does not like the twist at all. I do think some movies made it work, like H2O. H2O made it work, but they took the idea of just a slasher going after babysitters to this whole family thing, and I don't think that really worked in the context of this movie, and what they do with the rest of that version of the timeline. I just don't think that really worked with this version of Michael Myers. And it kind of ruined the movie for me. The movie clearly had no ideas besides that twist, and most of the movie was just these characters doing whatever just to fill in runtime, just for the final showdown with Michael Myers against his sister. But none of that ended up working for me, and sadly, Halloween 2 is not a Halloween movie I'm a fan of.
Halloween 3. Season of the Witch. The night no one comes home.
Now, I'm sure most of you understand the context behind this movie, because if you're watching this, you're most likely a Halloween fan. But it's weird, because I like the original idea of this franchise, of having each movie be an anthology and have it be its own little thing. I like that. The only problem with it is that they made Michael Myers too big of an icon in the first film. But just looking at Halloween 3 on its own, it's fine to just meh. I think it has a unique idea to the story that hooks you in quite a bit, and there's a few like gruesome looking images here and there that they do after the mask with all the bugs poking out and stuff. I liked all that stuff. I like the main thing with the witch and the mask and stuff. It's just everything that's not that, it's just pretty meh, pretty boring, not really interesting. It can be enjoyable in a lot of bits, and I can see why people do like this movie. I'm on the bridge of liking it, but not quite liking it just yet. I feel like a rewatch would help though, because I'm able to pick up on a lot of these other keys I missed before. But for the only anthology film in this Halloween franchise, I'm surprised it still counts as this Halloween franchise, because if you don't know the context and watch this franchise for the first time, you will be very confused. It seems very random, but it worked for me in a way. I feel like a rewatch though will definitely help.
I'm coming for you, Michael.
Taking what worked about the remake of 2018, Halloween Kills decides just to give us kills. The kills in this movie are the best part. Sure, they feel random, they feel forced, but they're the best part. And the actual story in this movie does work. But a lot of this movie just feels like filler, because quite obviously, proven by Halloween Ends, this trilogy was never really meant to be a trilogy. They had no story, they just wanted a trilogy to milk as much money as they possibly can. Halloween 2018 worked. They take Halloween Kills and decide, we're gonna make a lot of this movie absolutely pointless. The start of this movie and the end of this movie end in the exact same spots, and the only thing that fills in that gap are a lot of awesome kills that Michael Myers goes through. But like I said, a lot of this movie feels like extreme filler because they had absolutely no idea what to do with this trilogy. Halloween Ends, most of the movie is absolutely nothing. So when we get to Halloween Kills, a lot of it, like I said, is point A to point A, again, like nothing happened. But real quick, if you want to help me reach my goal of 1K by the end of the year, consider subscribing. Let's continue.
Halloween 4. The Return of Michael Myers.
The mask on Michael Myers looks extremely cheap, kind of showing this movie is cheap and a huge downgrade from the first 3 films. Technically 2 films. But I just love seeing Michael Myers as a beast with these kills, because this movie kind of showed us the true nature of Michael Myers. The first movie made him an icon, but this one made him indestructible. He's as indestructible because of this film. But this is one of those Halloween films where the story works along with the kills. I love the kid character in this movie on how she's related to Michael Myers, and she always gets these kind of dreams, always going back to Michael Myers. All that just worked for me, and she was my favorite character in this movie. And besides for, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis' character, she is my favorite character of this franchise. Is it good though? Barely. The kills save it, Michael Myers save it, the story kind of saves it, but overall, the movie's boring. For a movie that's a little less than an hour and a half, it is extremely slow. But overall, it still works, it's still watchable, and it's not a complete downgrade like half of these films. This is by far my biggest hot take, not just on this ranking, like a lot worse, like probably in my top 10 biggest hot takes, maybe close to top 5 or 3. A lot of people hate this film, like a lot. It's regarded as one of the worst Halloween films in this entire franchise, and I like it. Saying that a film is the worst in the Halloween franchise is saying a lot. This franchise has a huge downgrade. A lot of people have it worse than Halloween 6, but I like the film. There's quite a few explanations as to why. Now, yes, the first 20 minutes of the movie feel completely forced in and completely ruin the ending of H2O. I'll talk about that later, but love the ending. So, seeing that completely retcon, I absolutely hated. But ignoring that, just looking at everything that happens in the film, is it corny? Yes. Is acting bad? Yes. Is story-wise, is it bad? Yes. But it's a bad way for me that's just a guilty pleasure of mine. It's bad, it's wonky, it's stupid, but for some reason, this movie has this fun nature around it that all of that stupidness of the film is what makes it so fun in the first place. I love the idea of these characters in a trap setting where they can't escape Michael Myers. And on top of that, you make the film extremely dumb. That's why it's so fun to watch. It's just so dumb, it's fun, a movie. It's not good, I understand that. I do not understand how people do not think it's fun. Maybe you can tell me, but I find it to be a dumb, fun film. Now, like I mentioned before with Rob Zombie Halloween 2, a while ago, Rob Zombie has a specific flavor to making his films. So, when you give him a Halloween film, all of a sudden, the entire franchise is flipped on its head. Because there's a lot of wild stuff that happens in this film. There's a lot of very different things that happen in this film. It's almost like you give Michael Bay a property and all of a sudden, it's completely changed. That's kind of what happened here. You give a director a film that he doesn't really fit, all of a sudden, it does a complete 180 and is a very different film. For starters, when this movie is not remaking the first movie, I do like it. I do love the extended backstory of Michael Myers. We didn't need it, but actually seeing that, I did like. I also love the darkness of this movie. The kills are 10 times darker. Everything just feels more of a horror figure for Michael Myers. That's what makes this movie stand out a lot for me. But since the other half of this movie is remaking the first film, which is such an icon, all of a sudden, it just feels like you're rehashing everything that was done way better. And since Rob Zombie is a very different director when it comes to Halloween, remaking something that we already love and making it very different is not exactly what you want to do. It was such a wild route, it was such a risk, but most of the movie does work for me, but there's still a huge portion of the film that could be a bit better. Now, I do think this movie brought Michael Myers back in the correct way and made him an icon again, because it's been about 10 years since Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 and this film came out. 10 years without Michael Myers, and I feel like this movie was able to bring him back to the icon that he was in the best way possible. This was a great reboot, and I'm so glad that the Halloween 2 plot twist is not a part of this film, because it takes everything I loved about the first Halloween, H2O, and brings it into this film. It takes the concept of Jamie Lee Curtis's character wanting to defeat Michael Myers, bring it into a remake, while also keeping that babysitter slasher that works so well about the first film without that plot twist in Halloween 2. But I feel like this movie is a lot of the same thing over and over again. Kills are great. I love seeing Michael Myers in this modern setting. All these years later too, it really worked. But a lot of this movie just feels like it's trying to set up a trilogy. Everything that you want to see, that payoff with Jamie Lee Curtis's character, all of it is really just being dragged on to the rest of the trilogy. And since we actually have the entire picture, we know that this trilogy was never really supposed to be a trilogy. It feels like they could have and should have wrapped it all up in this film. So, feeling that drag in this movie just to try to extend its runtime, you can feel it a lot in this film, but nonetheless, I still do enjoy it.
Halloween H2O.
Now, this is the best ending to this franchise, and it should be the real ending to this franchise, because, in my opinion, this movie just ended Jamie Lee Curtis's character arc in a really satisfying way, and just ended this story of Michael Myers in a very satisfying way. I love this ending, and although I do like Resurrection, it completely ruined it, and I'll never forgive the film for that, because this ending is just so perfect for this character and for this franchise. Even Halloween Ends, which kind of did a story similar to this, didn't really capture the most satisfying bit this film was able to do. The entire final act, from the moment Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis's eyes meet, you feel this tension grow in the air. It's a showdown you want to see, and the movie absolutely delivers on that note, especially since it's been setting that up the entire film. I do feel the first half of the film is slow. You are waiting for that showdown to happen. You are waiting for Michael Myers to appear again, but when it does get to that most amped up scenes, kills are great, Michael Myers is great, and very satisfying. Even the slow bits in the first half still have meaning behind the story and are still great. H2O did it all perfectly. But of course, one is more iconic.
As a matter of fact, it was.
Halloween.
The movie that changed the face of horror and the slasher genre forever. Without this film, Scream wouldn't exist, Nightmare on Elm Street wouldn't exist, Friday the 13th wouldn't exist. All of these different horror icons would not exist without this film. This film just completely changed the shape of horror, slasher, and even probably some other movies too that are not even in the horror genre. Without this film, a lot would have changed. It's all like the importance of Jaws was. It's huge. It's iconic and introduced Michael Myers and showed why he is such an icon in the first place. Other franchises like Friday the 13th, the slasher, you don't see them being iconic until a certain film. For example, Friday the 13th, it's not till the fourth film that you can see why they're such an icon. But for Halloween, right from the first film, you can see why this character is such an icon. And just from that first film alone, he's already in your head. He's already such an icon. Other franchises, it takes a while just to see that face grow. Halloween did it all in the first movie, in an hour and a half. Sure, the film can feel outdated, but the kills, Michael Myers, the story is just so simple. I love the babysitter slasher thing. It all just works so well in this movie and changed the shape of horror forever. Anyways, if you like this video, maybe these ones on the side with you too, like, subscribe. See you guys next time. Goodbye.